What's going on, everybody? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you finally with your WWE Super Showdown recap and review. The show has been over now for about 8 or 9 hours. I had to get some sleep because I stayed up all night to watch this show. I live in California, so on the West Coast, the show had a 2 a.m. start time for me, which is not that bad for me considering I stay up late anyway, so I figured it would be really no big deal to stay up all night and watch this show, and that's what I did. I got home from work a little bit before midnight and hung out, made some dinner. At about 1:30 a.m., I knocked back a half of a 5-hour energy, and I sat right here and made it through the show with no issues. I was wide awake for the whole thing. And luckily, they even shaved this show down an hour. This was advertised to be a 5-hour-long show. But as we got going through the show there, it was becoming pretty clear that there was no way it was going to make it to 5 hours, and it looked like they shortened it to 4. We're going to jump right into this show here. I've been kind of looking around Twitter and looking around YouTube a little bit, trying to get a general idea of what people thought of the show, and it looks like they thought of it exactly what I thought of it, and that is... You guys have heard the phrase all day. I'm sure for the last, several hours you've heard this phrase, glorified house show. And that's pretty much what it was. But I still found myself enjoying the show. I had a blast live tweeting all night because lately during Raws and pay-per-views, I'm up here live streaming. So it was nice to actually kind of sit back and watch a wrestling show and tweet my thoughts. So if you want to kind of go back and read my play-by-play opinions of what was going on, go read my Twitter timeline. But I actually quite enjoyed it. And I want to thank all of my listeners over in Australia as well. I guess I have a few more of you guys than I thought because I was getting a lot of tweets and pictures from the show. Many of you attended the show. Looks like you guys had a great time. A lot of you guys were there well before the show went on the air and were sending me pictures of the set and the stadium, and everything looked great. And you guys over there earned this show. I mean, you deserved it. So I'm glad everybody was able to go. I'm glad you had a great time. At least I hope you had a great time. Judging from what you guys were sending me on Twitter, you did. And I'm happy that you guys got to experience a big show like this. It did look like it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, looking at it, they did pretty much what I expected them to do. They did announce the attendance for this show as well, had just over 70,000 people, and it was quite a scene out there. It was very reminiscent of the Greatest Royal Rumble and how they set that whole thing up. Now, when I mentioned the fact that this was a glorified house show, it pretty much was, because aside from the announcers, we did have announcers. We had Corey Graves, Michael Cole, and Renee Young calling the show on the WWE Network, but aside from that, it didn't really resemble any other TV or pay-per-view show that you would see. There was no backstage interviews, there was no skits, no segments, nothing like that. It was pretty much a match followed by a couple of commercials, then another match followed by a couple of commercials. That was pretty much it. So it really had that house show feel to it, and I was the one that kind of predicted that months ago before the Greatest Royal Rumble. I don't remember predicting too many major things to happen on that show. I think what's going to wind up happening when WWE goes to other countries to do shows like this, that maybe aside from 1 or 2 major things happening, not a whole lot is going to wind up taking place on this show and in these matches, and we're not going to see a ton of title changes, and we're not going to see a ton of storyline changes and directions and shit like that, and that's pretty much what we got tonight. So I'm going to run through the card here right in order of what we saw, and I'll get into everything and give my opinions on it, and then I'll get out of here. So the first match we got was the New Day defending the SmackDown Tag Team titles against The Bar. Incidentally, there was no kickoff show on this pay-per-view, so we got nothing beforehand, no hour-long, preview show with a couple of matches, nothing like that. The show just went live and started right off the bat with a title match, and I predicted the New Day to retain here. However, when I was watching the audience during the entrances, I started to second-guess myself. I thought maybe The Bar might be able to take the tag team titles here because, judging by the fans and the way they were so amped up and energetic and they seemed genuinely excited, they also seemed like a very, very pro-Bar crowd. And I thought, hey, WWE might want to throw the fans a bone here right away, give them a big title switch right off the bat to get the show off to a good start. But as the match went on, it looked like the fans started migrating back towards their support of the New Day. And when the New Day won, the fans seemed to pop for it, and all was right with the world. So no title change here, simple little match. Nothing major, and New Day retains. Next up, we had the SmackDown Women's title on the line. Becky Lynch, of course, defending against Charlotte Flair. This was another match that I was not expecting to see a title change in because, this issue with Becky and Charlotte is going to continue. I was expecting them to wrestle again at Evolution, and they still probably will, but they're going to wrestle even sooner than that. And Becky did exactly what I speculated that she would do in my predictions video. By the way, my predictions were fabulous for this show. I think I got 3 matches percentages wrong, but for the most part, I had nailed most of this stuff, including the finish they could possibly do in this Becky and Charlotte match. I figured a DQ was likely. I thought Becky Lynch would either cheat to win or try to cheat, get caught, and get DQ'd. And I believe she was in the figure 8. Charlotte had her in the submission hold, and the belt for some reason was in the ring, and Becky grabbed it and nailed Charlotte right in front of the referee, and he called for the bell, and that was it. And later on in the show, they would announce that Becky Lynch would have to defend the SmackDown title again against Charlotte this Tuesday night on SmackDown. So the ladies are going to do it all over again, and we'll see what they do there, if there's actually a title change, or if something else happens to lead to the big match at Evolution that will probably have some sort of a stipulation. That's my guess. So not only did Becky not drop the belt here in Australia to Charlotte, I don't really expect her to do it on SmackDown either. Next up was a pretty funny match. We had the big tag team match between Elias and Kevin Owens against John Cena and Bobby Lashley. Now, Owens and Elias did open up in the ring together, and they talked shit to the crowd a little bit. Bobby Lashley came out first with no Lio Rush. I was so disappointed that we didn't get to see Lio Rush. I don't know why. I didn't even hear the announcers offer an explanation as to why he was not there. He just wasn't there. So Lashley came out first, followed by John Cena, who is wearing some of his old school gear, just the black "You Can't See Me" shirt, except I think this one said "You Can't Stop Me." He does this funny little dorky run to the ring, gets in the ring, takes his hat off, and throws it into the crowd to reveal that he's got a shitload of hair. And as soon as he took his hat off and revealed his hair, I immediately said on Twitter that he looks like JBL. He looked exactly like JBL to me, just in a little bit better shape. And now that he's growing his hair, you can actually see that Cena is balding a little bit in the back. So Cena, I think, is one of the rare people that actually looks older with hair. How crazy is that? So I'm pretty sure it's grown out like that because he's filming a movie, or it needs to be for whatever reason. When he does come back in the ring and work another program or come back for another stint in WWE, he will probably trim that down. But it was really kind of funny to see Cena like that. And as we expected, as predictable as a lot of these matches were, I think this was one of the more predictable matches. There was no way that Elias and Kevin Owens were going to be able to beat these guys. It was a pretty quick match. John Cena got the pin with his little Jupiter punch, or whatever the fuck this new move is, the 6th move of doom. And it's just this really kind of weird backhand punch. We had seen some footage of it here or there when Cena's worked a random live event, and I thought they had named it something else weird, Jupiter Punch, Lightning Punch, something dumb, but I believe he hit Elias with that and got the pin. And after the match, he cut a promo, and I got really excited for a second because when John Cena was talking, Bobby Lashley was kind of crouched down in the corner, and I had mentioned in my predictions video that I thought something that might be fun to do would be to have Lashley turn on John Cena after the victory, after the two of them annihilate Owens and Elias. Lashley can turn on him, viciously beat Cena up, and then send Cena on his way because he's going to be off TV for a little while longer doing whatever the hell Cena is doing in China. So that now elevates Lashley as this badass heel. He attacks a WWE icon, and it sets him up for a perfect feud and program whenever John Cena comes back to WWE TV. So when John Cena was cutting his promo and Lashley was crouched in the corner there, I was thinking to myself, man, Lashley should jump up and attack him. But never happened. Cena finished his promo, talked about WWE being his home, I guess kind of reassuring the fans that he's not really going anywhere yet, because there have been a lot of rumblings about Cena retiring, and I can't believe how many fans ask me if John Cena is going to retire. Guys, this is professional wrestling. When does anybody retire? Unless an injury sidelines you, I don't really think you do retire in wrestling. It's very rare. And John Cena is one of those guys, especially because of his conditioning and how well he takes care of himself. I fully expect to see a 55-year-old John Cena in the ring. I think if Triple H and Undertaker and Shawn are wrestling into their 50s, then Cena will too. It won't be full time. He won't be champion for 9 months to a year at a time anymore and main eventing 3, 4, 5 WrestleManias in a row. Those days are over for Cena. But as far as his in-ring career, I think John Cena, even when he's mostly gone, can still come back a year later and work a WrestleMania with somebody. You know what I mean? I think he's going to turn into that Triple H or Rock or Undertaker or somebody that just wrestles sometimes. And I think he's getting closer and closer to working that type of schedule. But as far as him retiring and never stepping foot in the ring, I personally don't see it happening. You just can't. There's too much invested in him with WWE. They're going to want to go back to him. What happens 15 years from now when they run another Saudi Arabia show and they want John Cena there? I don't think John Cena really is going to go anywhere, even if his movie career takes off, even if he starts making a lot more movies and doing a lot more things in Hollywood. Even The Rock came back. With his success and what a star he became, he even came back and worked WrestleMania matches. So if he did, I think Cena would. No matter how successful John Cena gets in Hollywood, I think there will always be an opportunity for him at some point to step back into the ring from time to time, here or there, every few months, every few years, whatever it is. Once Cena starts getting into his mid-40s and close to his 50s, that's the type of shit you're going to see. You know, unless he suffers a Stone Cold Steve Austin or an Edge-like injury that forces him out of the ring, I think John Cena, quote-unquote, retiring will probably never truly happen. Next up, we had the Iconics defeating Naomi and Asuka. This was one of the very few matches I got wrong. I thought that the Iconics being from Australia, WWE wasn't going to put both Australian talents over, meaning them and Buddy Murphy. So I thought one of them would win and one of them would lose. And I picked Asuka and Naomi to win here, but I was happy to be wrong because the Iconics desperately needed this victory. You know, when you look at what they've done since coming to the main roster from NXT, hasn't been too great so far. So this was a pretty big victory for them, one that they needed, a nice moment in front of their home country, and they did pin Naomi, which was, you know, likely. We knew Asuka wasn't going to suffer this defeat, so if there was going to be a pinfall loss here in any way, it was going to have to be Naomi eating this one, and she did. The Iconics won, and I was happy for them. Next up, big WWE title match. AJ Styles defending against Samoa Joe. I would probably say this was... well, hell, I was going to say it was match of the night, but maybe not because I'm about to talk about that one in a minute. But this match did provide for me what I was looking for. I thought it was a good match. It was very brutal, very hard-hitting. AJ was even busted open in his mouth, I think, at one point. It was a no disqualification match, so you had a lot of weapons, you had tables, you had all sorts of stuff going on. I had pitched the idea of possibly Gallows and Anderson hitting the ring and helping out AJ Styles because AJ is enraged over what Samoa Joe tried to do to his family and showing up at his house and all of that. And I was like, shit, AJ should get some of his boys to come out and get them some of Samoa Joe. I don't care if AJ's a babyface. He's pissed. He needs to do whatever he has to do. But I was almost right. AJ Styles did win, but he didn't need any help. Did it on his own. He tapped out Samoa Joe with the calf crusher. For him to be able to defeat Samoa Joe here and tap him out gives him that little bit of revenge that he really needed and Joe had coming. And some people are a little bit disappointed. There's a big part of me that is too. I think Samoa Joe was on a roll there. I thought he had a lot of momentum. I thought he was doing great in that whole angle. Some of the best work and some of the most entertaining work that Joe has done, at least for me, since he's been in WWE. So if they would have decided to put the WWE title on him, you were not going to get any complaints out of me, trust me. But at the same time, I'm very much a fan of AJ Styles' title run in the WWE and the name he's making for himself since coming into the company, and not only being a champion there, not only being a guy on top, but holding the belt for a year. So I was pretty much in a win-win situation here. And I don't know what this means for AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. I don't know if this is it. I mean, they've had three pay-per-view matches now, and AJ Styles taps him out in what seemed to be the blow-off, and AJ already has another opponent now on the horizon that I'll talk about in a minute. This issue could be done, but I'm still holding out hope that maybe it's not. That maybe at Survivor Series or the December pay-per-view or maybe even the Royal Rumble, Samoa Joe can still win the WWE title, but I'm really starting to have my doubts. Either way, I thought the feud was pretty good, and this match, considering it was on a quote-unquote glorified house show, was pretty good, and I thought the guys performed very well and had a pretty hard-hitting, brutal match. So hats off to both of them, and congrats to AJ for still being WWE champion. Next up, we had another match that I got wrong. It was the big 6-woman match with Ronda Rousey and the Bellas taking on the Riott Squad. Now, Ronda Rousey tapped out Ruby Riott on Raw last week, so I thought that this would be a really good opportunity to give the Riott Squad a big victory here in the record books against a team on the other side that has a name like Ronda Rousey on it. All you have to do to achieve that is pin one of the fucking Bellas. Pin Brie. She deserves it. Everybody's pissed off at her right now anyway for not only almost killing herself, but killing poor little Liv Morgan. And Liv, by the way, was okay. I guess she was cleared to wrestle because she did work this match. I wasn't sure with her concussion what her status was going to be, but they did let her get in there, which was good. And the finish I actually liked. Even though I got the match wrong and I predicted it wrong, I liked the finish. You didn't even see the Bellas in there, and Ruby Riott wasn't anywhere to be found either. The finish saw Ronda Rousey in the ring with Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, and Ronda puts them both in a double arm bar and makes them both tap out at the same time. You know, some of the angrier and smarter fans are probably going to be like, oh, it's not believable, and, you know, and they're burying Liv or whatever the fuck. I thought it was pretty cool. And it was a good moment for Ronda Rousey in Australia because that's where she lost to Holly Holm. And I think even Corey Graves referenced that a time or two during the match. So I guess it was a moment they wanted to give Ronda. I thought the Bellas and Ronda could lose without a problem here because you could do some miscommunication. You could set up whatever Ronda and Nikki are going to be doing in the future. At least that's the rumors that we're hearing. So I thought there was lots of opportunities to give Riott Squad the win here without doing any damage to Ronda. But Ronda and the Bellas got the victory. There was no heel turn, nothing like that. They hugged and celebrated after the match, and that was that. Now we're moving on to the match of the night. This was great. And this was the sole title change that I predicted for this event, and I told you guys why in my predictions video. I said WWE is probably not going to do anything on the show as far as title switching goes, but if you're going to do one, you gotta do this one. I mean, Buddy Murphy is in his hometown, born and raised in Melbourne, Australia. Cedric Alexander is ripe, in my opinion. He won the belt way back at WrestleMania. He's held it for a while now. I don't want to say he's stale because he's not. I'm a very, very big fan of Cedric Alexander. I actually think Cedric could be really good on the main roster. I don't know if he'll ever get there, but I think he could do it. So I have nothing against Cedric Alexander whatsoever, but I do feel like it was time to switch the belt. This is the Cruiserweight division. That's a type of title that does tend to change hands a little bit more frequently. I thought it was time for a title change, especially when you're doing it on a stage in front of 70,000 people, because the Cruiserweight title and the stars are not really featured on Raw anymore. They're not on the main roster stage. They're just on 205 Live and here and there on the network. So to have a title switch in an environment and in a stage like this on a main card, not a kickoff. This was late in the card, too. This was past the halfway point of the show. There were some amazing spots in this, including Buddy Murphy kicking out of the lumbar check, which I don't think anybody has done. And then finally, the finish saw, I'm trying to go by memory here, it was some sort of a counter, and then Murphy hit Alexander with his finisher and got the pin, and the crowd popped hard. Huge ovation for Buddy Murphy. Wonderful moment for him. I was so happy. I mean, I was marking out myself, and it was perfect. WWE did exactly what they needed to do there. That was the one sole belt that you should have switched, and they did it. Congrats to Buddy Murphy, new Cruiserweight champion. I'm sure he'll go on now to have a couple of rematches with Cedric Alexander, but I'm hoping that this guy has a run. Let Murphy hold it for a while. Give him a run. Let him drop it at WrestleMania to some new guy. I don't know. But for right now, Buddy Murphy won a hard-fought match, and that Cruiserweight title was well-earned. Congrats to Buddy Murphy. I enjoyed the match. I enjoyed the moment. I enjoyed everything about it. It was probably the highlight of the show, at least as far as wrestling goes for me. Probably this one and the WWE title match, but I really enjoyed the Cruiserweight title match. Next up, we had the big six-man match between Braun Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Drew McIntyre taking on The Shield, and this was the other match that I got wrong. So I got 3 matches in total wrong in my predictions. I predicted the Iconics incorrectly, Ronda Rousey and the Bellas incorrectly, and The Shield incorrectly. I thought you would give the victory here to Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre because Strowman has got a title shot coming up at Crown Jewel in a month, and you would think to give him some momentum, he should pin Roman Reigns, right? I not only predicted Strowman, McIntyre, and Ziggler to win, I predicted Strowman to pin Roman. And boy, was I wrong. The Shield did wind up getting the victory here. Not a really big surprise at the end of the day. The only surprise here was they were teasing a little bit of dissension with the Shield during the match. Roman Reigns accidentally hit Dean Ambrose with the Superman punch. Knocked him out. There was one point where Seth and Roman were in the middle of the ring, and Strowman, Ziggler, and McIntyre were surrounding 3 of the 4 corners, and Ambrose was still on the outside of the ring, suffering the effects of the Superman punch, and then Ambrose jumps up on the apron as well, and it looks like all 4 of them are going to attack the Shield. Instead, Ambrose stays with the Shield. They wind up winning the match, and they stand tall and united when it's over. The Ambrose tease was just that. It was just a tease, because not only did Ambrose rejoin the Shield later on in the match, but he got the pin. I believe he hit Ziggler with the Dirty Deeds, and that ended the match. So the Shield was victorious there, and I guess this issue will carry on even further Monday night on Raw, and you might get something going on Survivor Series wise with these teams. I'm not really sure what's going to happen, but the next stop on our journey is Crown Jewel. That's when Roman will next defend the Universal title against Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman, but until then, according to Baron Corbin, Roman Reigns will not be defending the title, so they got a lot of time to kill in the next few weeks on Monday Night Raw. We might be in for some very, very long and boring live streams on Monday night. Next up was your semi-main event. Daniel Bryan and The Miz were going on late. I was happy to see them go on this late. It was around this time that I realized that there was no way this show was going to go for 5 hours, because we were only 3 hours into the show here when Daniel Bryan and The Miz's match was up, and we only had one left after this. So I was thinking it was going to be one more hour left in the show instead of 2, and Daniel Bryan and The Miz would go 30 minutes, and then Taker and Triple H would go 30 minutes. But Daniel Bryan and The Miz did not go 30 minutes. They went 3 minutes. You know what? They might have even gone less than 3 minutes. I don't know what the official time on this match was. It was so confusing. It had this very eerie shock factor from the crowd when the finish happened, because they were like, what the hell just happened? I had no idea. I was convinced that this was a botch. I was convinced that they called an audible and told the guys to go home early. I was convinced that one of them shit their pants and needed to get the hell out of the ring. I was convinced The Miz forgot to kick out. I didn't know what the hell was going on here, but it didn't feel right. Daniel Bryan, I think all he did was counter an attempt at the skull-crushing finale into a roll-up and pin The Miz 1, 2, 3 in like 2.5 minutes. And that was it. And he scooted out of the ring and got out of there, and Daniel Bryan wins the match and earns a title shot against AJ Styles, which they did announce on the show when it would take place. It's going to happen at Crown Jewel. I thought it was going to happen at SmackDown 1000, but it is official right now. AJ Styles will defend the WWE title against Daniel Bryan at Crown Jewel. But the match against The Miz to me was odd. Like, what the hell? Why did they do this? You know, I just wanted to know why. So I haven't really had a chance to go on the internet yet today and really look at what the story was behind this finish. Maybe it's just a way to continue dragging it on. Maybe they didn't want to give the fans the big, long one-on-one match yet. You give Daniel Bryan the victory here. Now he's got another opponent. He can be done with The Miz for a little while, and they can maybe pick things back up in the future. Now, I've pitched the idea of a WWE title match between the two of them at WrestleMania. I still think you can do that, but you don't have to do it yet. I'm going to give you guys an early prediction right now for Crown Jewel. I don't think Daniel Bryan is going to beat AJ Styles for the title. You know, when it comes to these type of shows, I think that's what we're going to get in most cases. I think we're going to get glorified house shows, and I don't think we're any more likely to see a title change at Crown Jewel than we were to see one at Super Showdown or at Greatest Royal Rumble. So I think what they might do is have The Miz interfere in the Daniel Bryan and AJ match, maybe cost them the match. Maybe Samoa Joe is not done with this situation either. Maybe Samoa Joe weasels his way into the match somehow, makes it a triple threat. I also think that it's a 1,000,000,000% guarantee that sometime between now and Crown Jewel, we're going to get a tag team match on SmackDown. Daniel Bryan and AJ Styles taking on Samoa Joe and The Miz. And that'll probably happen at SmackDown 1000, or might even happen as early as this week. But rest assured, it will happen. But right now, even though Daniel Bryan is getting the title match at Crown Jewel, I don't think he's going to win it there. I think The Miz is going to screw it up. I think maybe The Miz costs him the belt, and then The Miz somehow goes on to get a title shot against AJ Styles, and The Miz will be the guy to take the title off of AJ Styles, and then maybe Daniel Bryan can take it off of The Miz at WrestleMania. That's my hope. But even with all of that speculation and all of those possibilities, I still don't think you're going to get a title change at Crown Jewel. And now we're into the main event. Triple H versus The Undertaker. This match went so long. I cannot believe how long these two old men wrestled for. It was also a no disqualification match, which was not announced. That was announced during the instructions, or during the introductions, was when they announced that it was now a no disqualification match. I'm guessing that Triple H and his power as COO was able to make that stipulation last minute, and that meant that Shawn Michaels and Kane could get involved, which this match really needed that, because you're not going to be able to have a 30-minute match between these two guys in the ring. You're going to have to do some extracurricular stuff, and the no DQ stip now allows that to happen. So it really, to me, felt more like a fatal four-way than anything else, because the guys were just all over the place wrestling and fighting each other. They were all outside the ring. There was tables involved. Shawn Michaels and Kane were getting into it. Probably the most entertaining part of everything is during Shawn's involvement, his hat never came off. It took forever for his hat to finally fall off, revealing the beautiful bald head on HBK. But after what seemed like an eternity, and a match that was actually not that bad, considering how old these guys are and the condition that especially The Undertaker is in, I thought, given their age and point in their career, they put on as good a match as you could possibly do. And it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be when they first announced this match. I thought it was going to be a throwaway type of deal, but it turned out to be pretty good. Undertaker was taking some pretty serious bumps in this match as well. Nothing too crazy, but, you know, he was flying into the barricade and things like that. They had sledgehammers, they had tables, they had chairs. Finally, the finish saw Shawn Michaels super kicking The Undertaker for at least the second or third time in the match, and then he turned around right into a pedigree and ate that, and Triple H got the 1-2-3. Now, I did predict that match correctly, because I thought that after all of the times that The Undertaker has defeated Triple H has never been able to beat this guy one-on-one. All of the WrestleMania matches and losses that Triple H has had against him, I thought you had to put Triple H over here, especially if you're going to go into Saudi Arabia and do the big tag team match. And that's exactly what happened. Triple H finally was able to defeat The Undertaker after a lot of brutality, and then the finish, or I'm sorry, not the finish, but after the match, Triple H walks over and tries to help The Undertaker up after hitting him with chairs and sledgehammers, and I'm thinking to myself, there's no way they're going to do a repeat of WrestleMania 28, where everybody is going to walk to the back arm in arm. And the announce team, my God, it was exhausting listening to Michael Cole say over and over again that this is the last time you're ever going to see this. This is the last time you're going to see Triple H and The Undertaker one-on-one. He made sure he threw that in, because we know we're getting the tag team match in Saudi Arabia. And then when the four guys are celebrating with each other, Shawn, Triple H, Kane, and Taker, they're all up, standing upright, saluting the audience, raising each other's hand in the air. And you think the show is going to go off the air, and the whole time I'm watching Undertaker, because I'm like, when is The Undertaker going to deck Triple H? There's no way. I even tweeted it during the celebration. I'm like, this is not going to happen. There's no way the show's going to go off the air with all four of these guys being all lovey-dovey, because you got to set up the tag team match. We know Shawn Michaels is coming back. It's no longer a rumor. So if the show goes off the air with all four of these guys butt-fucking each other, how do you even get to the Saudi Arabia tag team match? So I'm just sitting there watching Taker, and I'm waiting for him to hit one of them, and he finally does. Undertaker and Kane attack DX, beat the crap out of Triple H and Shawn Michaels after the match. They even put Shawn Michaels through a table and left Triple H and Shawn Michaels in a heap, and that's the way the show went off the air, with the Brothers of Destruction standing tall over DX. So there you go. There's your tag team match. They're going to set that up, I guess, probably right away on Monday Night Raw. So overall, I thought Super Showdown was just like a notch or two above a glorified house show. Not quite a house show, but then again, not a pay-per-view either. So somewhere in between. And considering the amazing moment with Buddy Murphy and that whole thing, him winning the title in front of his hometown, that was great. You had a very epic match between Triple H and Undertaker. It wasn't going to be, you know, a great showcase of talent. We know with these guys and where they are in their lives, they're not going to be able to put on a 5-star match or anything like that, but it was a big match that went like 30 or 40 minutes, maybe even 45 minutes if you count the entrances and the brawl that took place after the match. It was a long ordeal, and the whole entire show was really centered around this match, and you could see that. WWE, I think, did a really good job of building to this main event, and I thought they did an okay job executing it. And now we get the big return of Shawn Michaels in Saudi Arabia that will hopefully be the beginning of The Undertaker's retirement. You have got to think this has to be it. You know, maybe The Undertaker, that's his request. You know, if he's finally going to do a retirement program and retire for real this time, he's changed his mind about losing to Cena. He's changed his mind about losing to Roman Reigns in his last match. He wants to go out with the guys in the company that he has the most history with, and he's got a lot of it with Triple H and Shawn Michaels and Kane. So I'm hoping that what we see here is Triple H winning at Super Showdown, then Taker and Kane will win in Saudi Arabia, and that will lead, whatever takes place in that match and however the finish goes there, it'll probably end with The Undertaker tombstoning and pinning Shawn Michaels. If I had to guess, that's the finish they'll do at Crown Jewel. And that can then lead to The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels doing it one more time, one-on-one, and The Undertaker actually retires for real in New York at WrestleMania 35. There's also the possibility of Survivor Series. I'm going to be there in a month in LA. We could get some sort of a match involving The Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at Survivor Series. Maybe another tag team match, maybe a Team DX versus a Team Brothers of Destruction, big Survivor Series match. I don't know what they're going to do there, but we could see something as early as Survivor Series. Royal Rumble, is it a big stadium show this year? They might do something there, or they can hold it off and do it at WrestleMania and actually retire The Undertaker. So you guys let me know what you think about the future of Triple H and Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker and Kane, and where you think they're going and what all the pay-per-view matches are going to be going forward into next year at WrestleMania. And also let me know what you thought of Super Showdown, the matches that we saw. Did you like the show? Did you hate the show? Was it a glorified house show? Did you wish you didn't waste your time with it? Did you like it and thought it was a lot better than people give it credit for? Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'll be interested to hear that. So I'm going to get out of here, get this fucking thing edited and get it up to YouTube. And I will talk to you guys Monday night for a live stream. Until then, peace.